Welcome to episode 65 of the Twig Snapper Podcast. Today I'm joined by Angela Hawthorne of the Utica women's hockey team. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I can't complain. I mean, it's a Monday, but honestly, it doesn't feel like a Monday. I don't know why. It's just, and I guess that's a good thing. It's a good Monday, I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, the weather's turning around, so that's good.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's starting to feel a little bit more like spring, which, we're getting towards April, so that's what it should happen. It should start to feel like spring here. We'll talk about, I don't know, all kinds of different things from your time at Utica, and then a few other things. I'll just give some little background for the listeners that you've played 51 games, 94 save percentage, almost 95, 32 wins, 13 shutouts throughout 3 seasons. There's kind of a little like synopsis of where you're at now. I guess one thing to start out is like, why'd you choose Utica? Like, take us through your recruitment process and why you ended up choosing Utica.
Yeah, so my recruitment process was pretty eventful, to say the least. I probably committed like the latest you probably could, which was May of my postgraduate year. So that was definitely kind of a stressful process.
Yeah.
Um, Originally, I played in California for the Junior Sharks, and
Okay.
out there's not much recruiting going on in
Yeah.
terms of being seen by colleges. And especially as a goalie, colleges really need to see you play like a decent amount to kind of get an idea of
Right.
what they're getting. So for my postgraduate year, I decided to go to Michigan and play for it was the Meyer Club back then, and got a lot more games and a lot more like visibility with coaches. The hardest thing
Yeah.
about being a goalie is I'm 5'2", which is, yeah, I'm a pretty short goalie. So
But hey, you're making it work. You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
your stats are good and you guys have a good program and you're a good goalie, so like you're not letting it. I mean, at Tech here, the
Hmm.
goalie for the men's D1 team is pretty short for like men's standards,
Hmm.
but he's one of the best in the country, so can't always use that as like a determining factor.
Yeah, exactly. And like through recruiting that year, it was still kind of hard to find a program that not only has like an open spot, but is willing to take a chance in a sense for kind of like a shorter goalie.
Yeah.
So throughout that year, it was kind of crazy. I had offers from schools. Um, One of them I accepted, and then they ended up revoking my offer back
Oh
without
man.
really, yeah, explaining any reason.
That'd be pretty
But
stressful.
yeah, so I kind of had to go back into looking at schools. And this is also the time that COVID hit
Right.
initially. Yeah.
So it
So,
added more stress to the mix.
yeah, exactly. So by the end of the season, I was still uncommitted. And a lot of the schools I was looking at, I was talking to the coaches through email, and I wasn't able to visit any of the campuses, which was even more stressful. So a lot of virtual tours and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw Utica. I didn't know where Utica was in New York, but I got an email from Coach Clausen, and I really liked what they had to offer in terms of the odd. That's where we play, and the Utica Comets play out of, which is awesome.
Yeah.
He was talking about how we're going to get a new rink and facilities, which we just moved into this past January, the Nexus Center, which is awesome. And he kind of gave me the opportunity of being like, look, the number one spot is up for grabs freshman year, depending on how obviously I perform and adjust to the college level. And I think the biggest thing that I loved about Utica is like the city just loves hockey. Like
Yeah.
everyone is just so invested in the men's team and the Comets. I still remember like my freshman year, I think the first week that I got into campus and was just like out and about in the city. Like one of the like a random stranger came up and asked about our season and how like the outlook of our team is, which I think is like just awesome. especially for like a
Yeah.
women's team.
Right, for sure. So your first season would have been the COVID season, right? Where you guys played a
Yeah.
shorter schedule of only like handful of games.
Yeah, exactly. So that was very weird. We practiced for a whole semester, kind of unsure about whether we were going to play games or like how many what like it was going to be, especially since like the Nescacs and the Sunnis didn't play any games either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we ended up playing I think about 14 or 15 games,
Yeah.
which was definitely weird, but it was nice that we had a year where we could play games and still get the eligibility for another year.
Right, because some colleges they didn't get any games. The scheduling was a mess. So at least you got a little bit of some game action your freshman year to kind of like help ease you into college hockey. Um, and then over each year, looking at your like stats, you've improved in pretty much every category. You've played in more games each season. Your minutes have increased each season. Your save percentage is increasing. Everything's kind of increasing. And what do you credit that to? Just your own personal development? Do you think part of it has to do with the team is getting better and you're getting better along with the team? Is it a combination of both? Like, what do you think that is?
I definitely think it's like a combination of both. So my incoming class was crazy. It was like 12-person class, which is huge.
Yeah.
And the sophomore class, which is now the senior class, they had about 9 girls. So going in my freshman year, it was a very like underclassmen heavy team. So obviously just trying to find the chemistry and everything, and I'm not having that many games, like it's not very representative of how we would do, I think, like in a normal season.
Right. And
And
you weren't practicing and like playing the same way you would in a normal season too.
yeah, exactly. Like we were worried about like testing people getting yanked off the ice
Yeah.
or being in like a positive pool. Like just like the uncertainty of that definitely caused like some stress. And
Right.
I know like at least for me, maturity wise, like throughout the years, kind of getting acclimated to the college level in terms of reading plays and that kind of stuff. And I think the biggest thing is like mentally kind of preparing yourself for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Right. A lot of that stuff,
Mhm.
it's hard to prepare yourself until you actually experience it at the college level because it's so different from before college.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like the level of playmaking and what's happening is a lot faster. And as a goalie, being able to be ahead of the play just takes time and just kind of getting acclimated to the level.
Especially on the schedule you guys play. You guys play a really hard schedule. I mean, this year you guys played Elmira and then Nazareth multiple times and Hamilton. I mean, all top teams. So you're playing against the best in the country throughout the season.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I mean,
Uh
like a huge like mental part is like consistency. And
right.
I know one thing I started doing since sophomore year is kind of setting goals for myself,
Okay.
like personally as well as team goals.
Yeah.
And like setting up personal goals, I think helps kind of focus on what you can do individually to make yourself better, to improve your
Right.
team's chances and give
Are
your
they
team
like
the best chance.
are they like weekly goals that you're setting or like season goals or both?
It's a little bit of both. So I ended up reading, I don't know if you know like the Hockey Tough like book. It's like
I'm
a
not familiar with that.
yeah, it's like a hockey mentality kind of book to help with um kind of changing your perspective on the game
Okay.
because obviously
Yeah,
with how long
I just looked it up.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
and it really helped like kind of narrow my focus. So in
definitely.
terms of like weekly things, I said I was going to like actively work on flexibility and recovery 3 times a week. I'm going to do vision training 2 times a week. And that kind of like little things to
Yeah.
then um the next level of the goal um that I got from the book was like steps. So my overarching goal was like first team. at least personally,
Right.
that sophomore year.
Yeah.
And I had to put down steps to like how I would get there.
Mhm.
So some of them were like keep my team in close games, stealing non-conference games. And those are like things that I can keep in my control because sometimes save
Right.
percentage, you can't necessarily control that.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be
exactly.
this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you've got a really good one, it's kinda nice to, like, recognize, "Hey, I've got a great save percentage," but if it's a little bit lower, it doesn't like you say, just, like, show how good you are, how good your team is, because you've got to look at all the other statistics. You've got to look at the games. You've got to look at the game flow and all these different things to really understand the save percentage and how it impacts things. I mean, some people have a little bit lower save percentage, but you look at their win-loss record and it's phenomenal. So that save
Mhm.
percentage doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Going off of that, kind of talking about your like tough schedule. There's one specific game I want to mention. It's the one against Hamilton College. You had 52 saves, ended up in a 2-2 tie. They were one of the, I think they were number 7 at the time that you guys played them. So just an absolute, battle of a game, obviously. So maybe you could just kind of touch a little bit about like what was your guys' mindset going in and then like throughout the game as it was just consistently a battle.
Yeah, so Hamilton was definitely a game that was circled on our calendars just because they were another nationally ranked team that we were playing. And we kind of viewed it as there's some people that were like skeptical in a sense of us being in the top 15 in the nation just because we haven't played hard teams such as Hamilton in the top 10.
Yeah.
So we really use that as kind of like this is the game to show like everyone else in the nation that like we belong in that top 15. So obviously on a Tuesday, it was definitely kind of a weird game, but it was definitely a game we're very excited for. Finally having an opponent the second half of the semester that really challenged us. And Hamilton's always been tight games against. I know last year it was 3-2, and they were a very fast team. And I just remember like out the gates of that game, they were coming in fast. Like
Yeah.
they probably got I think 19 shots in the first period. I think that we're a little bit on our heels in that
Yeah.
game, being like, okay, this is what like the work we have cut out for us now. Like we have a legit team that is probably going to make the NCAA tournament, and it really took us, I think, 40 minutes for us to kind of get back into our rhythm in terms of being the very offensive oriented team that we're kind of like known for style wise. So I remember the second period, we got some penalties that they were able to capitalize on, but it was still a 2-0 game. It was a game that was still within reach for us. We've been down before. We're more than capable of coming back. And remember that third period, we came in with a mentality of we're going to come out flying. We're going to play like our style of play, of being aggressive, up in their face, and getting shots on net, which we kind of lacked the previous 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But I remember like first 5 minutes, we scored 2 goals. And just like that, we were back in the game. I think it was like 30 or 40 seconds apart, the goals, which was crazy. Like the football team came out to support us. The fans were just like electric in the Nexus Center,
Yeah.
which was just awesome. Like I haven't seen that like energy, like nothing compares to it. That's probably like one of the highlight moments of my career for sure. Was just
Yeah.
seeing like we were able to come back from a 2-0 deficit against the top like one of the top teams in the nation.
Right, and that shows your team's like mental toughness and like ability to respond. I mean, some teams when they get down, they can't respond. They kind of give up. But like it shows your mental toughness, and you guys weren't willing to back down. You came back, and then like you said, tied that up against a tough team. So obviously you've played against some really hard opponents over the years. Is there one that sticks out to you that like every time you play them, they're just, consistently the hardest team, or do you think it's a combination of teams that are always consistently hard?
I definitely think it's a combination of both Elmira and Nazareth. They always seem to give us the most trouble.
Yeah.
Nazareth is like in our conference, they're the main team that we need to beat for the conference title now that like
Yeah.
Elmira's left.
Right. So consistently, and I had a feeling you would say that just kind of based on looking at your schedule and like your close games with them, and they seem to be the team that maybe you've had the hardest time just like kind of getting over that hump with. But then it makes you hungry for more. Like next year, obviously, you kind of have that more of a drive to try and beat them. Um, what would you say is your favorite part about Utica?
Definitely the atmosphere and the love for especially Utica hockey. Like our men's team it's crazy. Like their team is number one in Division 3 for attendance. Oftentimes for like the finals, they're able to sell out the Odd, which is an AHL rink, which is just
Yeah.
crazy to think about.
Yeah, that is pretty insane.
Yeah. And like they show us like those fans show support for us too. Some of them end up coming to our games. Some of them always ask like how our season's going and that kind of stuff, which I just think is awesome. As well as just like you'll go to restaurants and you'll see like Utica hockey jerseys and that kind of stuff, which is crazy because it's like we're a city, but it's still kind of a small city compared to Syracuse and Rochester and those areas.
Right. Yeah. So it's a close knit hockey community or like hockey is a big center of the community, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's evident in like they built the new rink for us, the Nexus Center. In addition to that, there's 2 other rinks. So there's 4 rinks in that one complex
Yeah.
now.
Right. So hockey is just kind of like the biggest thing that the community has and like revolves around.
For sure.
So talk a little bit about your goalie mask design. I noticed you've got like the Golden Gate Bridge on the back. I'm assuming that's because you're from California, but then there were a few other things on there. So I guess talk a little bit about how you decided to design your mask.
Yeah, so freshman year, I had a different mask. But last year for my junior and senior year, I decided to kind of change things up. I love the artist, Dave Fry down in Calgary. Um, always love his work. So I kind of worked with him. And the biggest thing that I wanted was this was also during the change where previously we were Utica College
Mm-hmm.
and now we're Utica University. So I was like, oh, this is the perfect excuse to get a new helmet.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to really implement, I would like love our Moose logo. I think it's super unique.
Oh, yeah,
Like
it's really cool. Like
yeah,
all your jerseys are really sweet.
yeah. And I feel like a moose, like I've never really seen that as a logo for any college. So I put the moose on both sides. At the time, I wasn't the hugest fan of the new U that we have to kind of represent our athletics teams now. So I just made that kind of like smaller on both sides of my mask, kind of emphasizing the moose. And one kind of approach I wanted to do for like the front of the helmet was having like a moose kind of stare down at you from like a frontal kind of angle and kind of like
Right. So when you're, skating in on a breakaway, you get threatened by that scary moose.
yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like the idea of like a charging moose.
Yeah.
And I kind of gave the artist like artistic liberty in how to kind of like execute that, which I think is awesome. That's probably one of my favorite parts
Yeah.
for sure. Like just seeing the photos and seeing the moose like looking at you, it's just really cool. And I also worked with him on my new pads that I have. So he kind of implemented the same color ratio and that kind of stuff to match my pads. And on the back, I have the Golden Gate Bridge for California. And I also have like a panther kind of like,
Yeah.
or like cat eyes. And I just really like cats just because they have like cat like reflexes
Yeah.
and they're very fast. So I figured, I was like, oh, it's kind of a cool touch to be like, this is kind of like how I want to play, like kind of relying on athleticism and reflexes.
Right. I think that's one of the coolest parts about being a goalie is you get to kind of like tell a story with your mask. You can have personal aspects on there, things about your past or things that are really near and dear to your heart, your hometown, or people have all kinds of different things. And then you can showcase your team or your school in some unique way. So like you said, when you give the artist some like artistic liberty, they can do some really amazing things with goalie masks. I think that's one of the coolest like aspects of being a goalie is that like the way you get to have your kind of like personal part of your uniform.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, one example is he recommended having a matte finish on the helmet, in which I was kind of skeptical of. I didn't know like how it would turn out, but now
Yeah,
I can't see it not being matte. Like
right.
it's just like a very unique look that I just love and kind of fits the aesthetic, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool. If anyone hasn't seen Angela's goalie mask, just check out her pictures on the Utica hockey roster, and it's a pretty neat mask. We'll just rattle off like kind of a few, quicker questions here to wrap it up. Like, who's your favorite athlete? It doesn't have to be a hockey player, but if it is,
Hmm.
just who's your overall favorite athlete?
I think I would say for hockey for sure, Igor Shesterkin in terms of a goalie, just
Yeah,
because he's New York. And another
he's one of
thing,
the best.
oh yeah, exactly. And I just love his style. I think I can
Yeah,
relate to his style more in terms of relying on athleticism and like he's on angle, like his angles are great. But like he's able to rely on his athleticism a lot and he's really quick and he's not like the biggest goalie either.
yeah, definitely. What's your favorite hockey brand? Bauer, CCM, Warrior. What's your go-to?
Ooh, okay. So for sticks, I would say Warrior. I'm kind of
Okay.
all over the place in terms of brands. But I have Brian's and I love Brian's for like goalie pads and
Okay.
gloves for sure.
Yeah. So little different. You're not a one brand only person. You like to, pick and choose for the different things.
Yeah, I mean I have Vaughn, Bauer, Brian's, Warrior sticks. I mean, being a full goalie, I can't be too picky on one brand.
Yeah. Let's see here. What's your favorite TV show?
Probably Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, let's
Yeah,
go.
I love Game of Thrones.
Who's your
Um,
favorite character?
Arya Stark, definitely my
Okay,
favorite
yeah.
character.
Yeah, that's my fiance's favorite character. She's definitely a good one.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, my club helmet for Meyer, it was Game of Thrones themed.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones, I said this in a previous episode. It was somebody's favorite show. You definitely have to watch it. It's awesome. It's one of the best TV shows. It's got everything you could want in a TV show.
Yeah, and I mean, they came out with House of Dragons too, so
I have
there's
not
new
seen that
content.
yet. I have not
Yeah.
seen that yet. Is it good?
I haven't seen it either.
Oh, okay. I guess we both have to check it out. What's your favorite Olympic sport to watch?
Definitely hockey in the winter, obviously.
Okay, what about
But
summer?
summer would probably be gymnastics.
Okay, yeah.
Gymnastics is pretty fun to watch, as
Yeah,
well
there's
as yeah.
there's
I
there's
was
so many, it's hard to pick. Like
I
there's so
know.
many unique things in the Olympics that you don't get. like I love watching in the winter the like ski and snowboard freestyle jumps, and then I don't know, it's kind of cool. They've got the speed walking now in the Summer Olympics and like all kinds of different like, you know, biking and different stuff. What's your favorite animal?
I would say a wolverine, which is
Okay.
probably a very uncommon answer.
Yeah. What's the reasoning?
I kind of like how they're very like aggressive, but
Yeah.
they're also very small.
Right.
It's like a
So
very
kind of
yeah.
like good combo for you. Your goalie mentality is aggressive, but you're a little bit of a smaller goalie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I
that's
mean,
perfect.
yeah, and they have great colors too.
Yeah. What's your favorite candy?
I think recently one of my friends has got me onto like the Kinder bars.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
really had them before until recently, and now I love them.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had one, to be honest. I mean, I see them, you know, all the time in the stores and stuff, but I don't know if I've ever like, yeah, I don't know if I've ever had one.
Yeah, I always seen like the eggs,
Right.
and I always thought that was like the only thing they had, but apparently they have like these bars with kind of like a Nutella almost filling in them. But I'm not
Hmm.
like the hugest fans of bars, so that's like the
Yeah.
only one that I found that I've kind of liked.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to try one now. Let's see here. How about we wrap it up on personal and team goal for next season?
Yeah, so for team to win the conference,
Okay. Yeah. It's a
yeah,
good goal.
obviously redeem ourselves
Yeah.
from this heartbreaker this season and
Right.
kind
It
of get
makes
our
you
revenge.
you get a little bit more of a kick and a little bit more of a drive and like a hunger for it. You know, when you lose in a heartbreaker, it makes you just want it so much more because you realize how close you were.
Oh, definitely. Like we were 8 seconds away
Yeah.
from like winning our first title. And I mean, I think it will serve as a great motivator for next year, especially
Yeah,
since we're
definitely.
only losing one senior, which
Right.
is
So you're
crazy.
bringing the whole team plus, you know, back.
Yeah, we're getting some transfers in, which is definitely as well as freshmen, which will just elevate our team even more. I think personal goals. I know this year, um, I set my goal to be an All American,
Yeah.
which is a very hard goal to
Yeah.
kind of achieve. Um, but I think for next year, just kind of focusing on doing what I did this year in terms of keeping my team in the close games and like doing everything like in my power to win us the games that we need to. And so I think maybe repeat first team again.
Yeah.
That would be kind
Hey,
of cool to have. Yeah.
it's good to have high goals and high expectations for yourself, something to work towards.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, I mean, being an All American again, I think would be really cool.
Right. Hey, anything is possible. You know, you just put in the work, and if you guys have all your, you know, people returning and all that, that's going to help you achieve your goal too. You know, the team in front of you obviously will help in that. So, you know, hopefully you can achieve all of those goals you just mentioned. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a good place to end on a few goals for next year. So, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.